Hello everyone and welcome back to the next session. We're going to be looking first at this question, our homework question, before we move on as always. This was a little more complicated than before. The only reason this, or the hiccup, or the wrinkle thrown at you this time was largely in converting everything to the same units of measurement. One typical rule is that just for, in general, just for questions of this nature, if you have them working at the same unit of measurement, typically it's much easier to solve these problems. So in this question, let's first begin with a review. Tracy McCoy has committed to the local PTA to make some items for a bake sale on Saturday. She's decided to make some combination of chocolate cakes, loaves of white bread, custard pies, and sugar cookies. Thursday evening, she goes to the store and purchases 20 pounds of flour, 10 pounds of sugar, and 3 dozen eggs. These are the main ingredients in all 3 baked goods she plans to make. The following table shows how much each of the main ingredients she requires for each baked good. This is the table, and then finally there are 18.5 cups in a 5-pound bag of flour and 12 cups in a 4-pound bag of flour. Tracy plans to get up and start baking Friday. She has 8 hours to bake. She knows that the cakes will sell for $12, the bread for $8, the custard pies for $10, and cookies for $6. How much should she make of each to make as much money as possible? So number one, basically, we need to, as always, find our objective function. It's very, very easy because it's given to us right at the end. Max z equals 12x1 cakes, 8x2 bread, 10x3 custard pie, 6x4 cookies. On top of that, in general, we would then move on and we'd look at our constraints. So the first one we see is that she went to the store and she purchased 20 pounds of flour. Looking at the end, we see there are 18.5 cups in a 5-pound bag of flour. So she has 4. We know from that she has 4 bags of flour. So that is 18.5 times 4, which is 37 times 2, or 74 cups of flour. So we see already that we have to translate the 20 pounds of flour to 74 cups of flour. We repeat the same process with sugar. We see that she has 10 pounds of sugar, which is actually 24 cups. And 3 dozen eggs is, of course, 36 eggs. Once we've done the translation like this, the only remaining problem is baking time. The only remaining constraint is baking time. So we see that there are 4 constraints available to us. These are now on the screen in front of you. 2.5x1 plus 9x2 plus 1.3x3 plus 2.5x4 must be less than or equal to the 74 cups of flour we have available. 2x1 plus 0.25x2 plus 1x3 plus 1x4 is less than or equal to the 24 cups of sugar you have available. 2x1 plus 0x2 plus 5x2 plus 2x4 is less than or equal to the 36 eggs you have available. And 45x1 plus 35x2 plus 50x3 plus 16x4 is less than or equal to the 480 minutes you have available. Once again, I converted the 8 hours she had to bake into minutes because baking was given to us in minutes per unit. So once this information is available to us, we're going to go into our computer programs, QM to begin, and we'll solve very simply because, as we saw, once we have the relevant information, once we've formatted properly, it should be relatively easy to solve these. So let me just get everything lined up here so I can see while I enter the information so I'm not making any mistakes. We're going to go to Module, Linear Programming, and open a new file. So our title is Baking Example. Here we see that we have not 2 variables but 4 and not 2 constraints but 4. We are maximizing. As long as this information is inputted correctly, our table will look exactly as it should. I'm going to lengthen these a little bit. Our first one we have is, let me double check. Cakes, bread, pies, and cookies. Cakes, bread, pies, cookies. We're entering the information here, 12, 8, 10, and 6. Constraint number 1 is flour. Number 2 is sugar. Number 3 is eggs. And the 4th constraint is baking time. From here, it's simply writing the information in correctly. 2.5, 9, 1.3, 2.5. Must be less than or equal to the 74 cups that we have available. Sugar is 2.25, 1, 1. Must be less than or equal to the 24 we have available. Eggs, 2, 0, 5, and 2. Must be less than or equal to the 36 we have available. And finally, baking time, 45, 35, 50, 16, less than or equal to the 480 we have available. So if everything's been inputted correctly, this should be a very simple problem to solve. If everything's been inputted correctly, once we hit solve, we have the information given to us. 3.24, and we see that the only thing we are not producing is pies. We have 3.24 cakes, 3.22 bread, 0 pies, and 14.76 cookies, which gives us a total profit of 153.22 units, dollars of profit. So that is our problem solved very quickly using QM. We'll solve it very quickly one more time. Using Excel. Baking example. What I'm going to do now, and this is just to show you what is possible. This is our last question that we'll review. I'm going to leave you with a homework question after this because this is our final session. But for now, what we are going to do is do this with no headings. The only thing that matters is the relevant information. So we'll go 12, 8, 10, 6. We'll go 2.5, 9, 1.3, 2.5, 74. Do it again. 2.25, 1, 24, 2, 0, 5, 2, 36, 45, 35, 50, 16, 480. And then, very simply, we'll enter our formula. We'll do it down here. Equals this times this plus this. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Skip a space. Equals. Now you'll see here that all of this is exactly what I've done before. The only difference is we have no headings. We're going to use this just to solve the problem. It's not the most useful thing in the world, and this is why we're always putting headings. But it is possible to solve all of this without any of the extra information we've been putting. So I'll continue here. One more time. Now this is greatly increasing my chance of making a mistake, but let's see if it works. One final time. And we have all of the relevant information here. Now, if we've done everything correctly, and if we remember where all of these are, once we enter the data into Solver, we should have no problems. So my ultimate objective is right here. I'm trying to maximize the profit. My variable cells are right here, the 4 of these representing the 4 products. I'm going to add my constraints. I'll make it simplex LP as always. I'll add my constraints. Must be less than or equal to here. if everything's been added accordingly, if everything's been added properly. Oh, and something went wrong. So we see solver found a solution. So a solution was found, but most likely in this section here, oh, we have an issue. But right now it's very hard to see what the issue is. And my point, this was expected, and what I wanted to show was for anybody who's been skipping steps, it is not necessarily the best situation. The important thing is not that you've solved this problem. The important thing is, because we've already solved it in QM, that you realize when you skip steps, you greatly increase the chance that you'll make a mistake. When we continue this program in managerial decision making, the problems get infinitely more complicated. And I'd like you to take the time to do these problems properly, because building a solid foundation is equally as important as finding the right answers right now. So I'll close this. I'm going to put your final project on, or your final homework problem online. Oh, and I'll leave you with this. I'm going to leave it here until the 40-minute mark. Once you've completed it, please answer your questions. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. This is the conclusion of our classwork. So if you have any questions, in our next session, I'm going to do an exam review. Once your next session is finished, then we just have the final exam remaining. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time. Good luck. If you have questions, as always, please contact me. All right, everyone. As I mentioned, this is your final session. We will have one more where we review the final exam. I'll give you the exam date and the details on the exam then. Thank you again for a wonderful semester. I know online is not the ideal scenario, but we did our best and hopefully you learned as much as possible under this format. Thank you again.